Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In today's video, I am going to be discussing last night's game between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Atlanta Hawks. However, before I get too far into it, I would like to remind you all to leave a like and subscribe. I've been appreciating all the support that I've been receiving lately, and I hope to see that continue. Now, without further ado, let's talk about the game. The Bucks were able to come away with a 129-115 win, but this one was probably a bit closer than it should have been. Throughout the first half, the Bucks were able to establish a 20-point lead, and they kind of fumbled the bag a little bit in the third quarter, but they were able to recover their own fumble to continue the metaphor and take it to the end zone to come away with a win today. The leading scorer in tonight's game was Giannis, as he finished with 27, 14, and 8 on 9 for 13 shooting. Also made 9 of his 15 free throw attempts, as he was able to get to the line at a very high level. Although on one free throw attempt, he was called for a 10-second violation after taking too long to get the free throw off. This is something that's happened with Giannis before, and I'm sure it'll happen again because he seems to have a pretty long routine at the line. But Giannis had a pretty Giannis-like night. He was attacking the rim, and there was no player on the Hawks who was really able to stop him from doing that, so it led to him scoring at a high level. He ran the inverted pick and roll with both Jrue Holiday and Bryn Forbes at multiple occasions in tonight's game. If you want to read about that, you can check out an article by Eric Name on The Athletic that came out earlier this season. But the Bucks have been running that set to great success so far this season, and Giannis proved it once again tonight. The one that really stood out was a possession where Holiday set the screen, and Giannis came around it, hit the help defender with a spin move, and was able to finish with a dunk. So obviously that is going to be an effective format of offense for the Bucks, and it was a way for Giannis to get a couple buckets tonight. Bobby Portis gave the Bucks some excellent minutes off the bench. He finished with 21 points and 6 rebounds on 9 for 16 shooting. Portis is just a very valuable player for this Bucks team, and he showcased that tonight because of his ability to score at all 3 levels of offense. He's a good rim runner and can finish lobs at the rim. He also is a solid guy who can sit in the dunker spot and catch rotational passes before throwing down a dunk. He can knock down shots in the mid-range, both in face-up situations and off catch-and-shoots. He's especially effective in that face-up because he also is good enough off the dribble to attack a defender one-on-one and get to the basket. And as we saw tonight, when he did knock down one of his 2 3-point attempts, he can also space the floor out to the perimeter. Portis has had a very strong start to this season, especially on the offensive end. On defense, he's not quite able to bring it at the same level, but because of his scoring and rebounding ability, he's a valuable role player for this Bucks team, and I think that, as we have seen in some situations, perhaps he should be part of this closing lineup where we play him and Giannis at the 4 and the 5 and have Brook Lopez on the bench. That's very matchup dependent, as against teams that have big men like Joel Embiid and Bam Adebayo, that's probably not a lineup that's going to work. But in some situations, when you're playing against, say, the Brooklyn Nets, who are playing Kevin Durant at the 5, playing Bobby in the closing lineup might not be a horrible idea, and that's something that I would look for Bud to experiment a little bit with down the line. Chris Middleton had a solid game tonight, finishing with 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. It was a pretty standard Chris Middleton game, as he shot 9 for 16 from the field, which is a solid efficiency level, and didn't really do anything too special. Most of his points came from the perimeter. As always, he was knocking down mid-range shots at a high level. Jrue Holiday also had a pretty regular game for him, finishing with 15, 5, and 5 on 6 for 13 shooting. As always, he knocked down a couple threes, was 2 for 4 from beyond the arc, and I think that both of them came off the dribble, as that is an area where I have found that Holiday has been quite successful so far this season. So a nice game from him, and with the effort from Portis coming off the bench, as well as some solid games from 2 other bench players in Bryn Forbes and DJ Augustine, the Bucks were able to come away with a win despite no super high-level outlier efforts from their top 3 players. With that being said, I think that we could talk about the Hawks a little bit. DeAndre Hunter had an absolutely terrific game. This came on a day where I released a 2019 redraft video, and in that redraft, I put DeAndre Hunter third, ahead of guys like RJ Barrett, Tyler Hero, Thwart, some very, very high-level NBA players. I think that highly of this guy, and he made me look pretty good with his performance tonight. Had 33 points on 13 for 21 shooting, got to the line 6 times and converted 5 of those. A lot of his scoring came in the mid-range as he was able to function both in pick-and-roll opportunities as well as attacking closeouts where he takes a few dribbles in and knocks down a mid-range look. He also got to the rim on a couple occasions, tried to stuff down a dunk over Giannis, although that did not turn out too well for him. But Hunter has really showcased his ability as a scorer this season, especially when guys like Trae Young and obviously Danilo Gallinari and Bogdan Bogdanovic have missed some time. So, nice game from Hunter tonight. I was really impressed with what I saw, and I think that this guy has a chance to be a very solid tertiary option for this Hawks team on the offensive end of the floor moving forward. And I'm very high on him and think that his upside is up there to be one of the best role players in the entire league, if not perhaps even a little bit more. Would it be a complete shocker to see this guy make an all-star game one day? I have to say that I don't really think that it would be. Jon Collins was the other player for the Hawks who really impressed tonight. He scored 30 points and grabbed 7 boards, shot 12 for 19 from the field, and made 6 of his 9 three-point attempts. That three-point shooting is very valuable as Collins is able to function as a stretch 4 and in some situations a stretch 5. And he also is obviously a very strong player in pick-and-roll opportunities. He wasn't able to do as much of that as he would in a normal game due to the absence of Trae Young, but I also think that the absence of Clint Capella, as this Hawks team was quite shorthanded, so that's another reason why this game should have been a bit more lopsided than it actually ended up being. But Collins did score a little bit inside as well, and obviously was knocking down his three-point attempts as 18 of his 30 points came from beyond the arc. Really nice game from him, though. I think that he can really function as a secondary option in the offense, and that if he and Hunter continue to play at the high level they have, not necessarily putting up 30-point games, but at least providing good secondary and tertiary options for this Hawks offense once Trae Young returns from whatever injury he's struggling with right now, this team has a chance to be really, really good. They have a chance to be perhaps a top 7, top 8 team in the Eastern Conference and have a chance to only have to win 1 game in order to qualify for the playoffs instead of winning 2 when the play-in tournament comes around. Overall, this was a decent win from the Bucks. There were some things that showed up where they were kind of lacking urgency and struggled to prevent easy shots for the Hawks on the defensive end of the floor, but their offense looked really good tonight and they were able to essentially score at will, and that certainly is promising. You also have to love the bench production, and I think that I will have another video coming out later today in which I go a little bit more in depth as to what the Bucks bench has given them thus far this season, so keep your eyes open for that one. For the Hawks, they got some really nice performances from their young players, but they were just too shorthanded with the absences of Young, Bogdanovic, and Capella in order to be truly competitive with a team that's probably one of the 3 or 4 best in the NBA. So this was an interesting game, a whole lot of offensive fireworks, and definitely some interesting takeaways, especially for the Hawks' young players. Let me know what you thought of this video in the comments section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. That's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.